resume and his education. I finally had my eyes opened, and I have to admit that Michael Heiser fell off the pedestal for me when I interviewed him for my YouTube channel about his demon book. And Michael Heiser exegeted that Genesis 1:26, the famous passage of "Let us make man in our image," that was a plural about God and the divine council. And Michael Heiser said that wasn't implying the divine council was involved with creation, but he said that was God plus the angels. And I knew this wasn't true.
As was pointed out in Doreen Virtue's video, the moment that Doreen realized something was off was Heiser broke down Genesis 1:26, which is during the creation account, when it says, "Let us make man in our own image." And I've always known, growing up, I was taught that that's the Trinity. Let us make man in our image. It's a Trinitarian verse. Well, Heiser disagreed with that and actually said that no, God and the angels did creation, created man.
If I'm going to do this, I did it in the spirit world. They're like me too. This is why we get the plurals in Genesis. And the humans are now.
Can I stop you right there? So you mean
Sure.
When it's talking about we will make them in our image?
Yeah.
Isn't that the Holy Trinity speaking right there?
I don't think it is. If that was the only passage that had that language, you could probably get away with that. Mm-hmm. If you go to, let me just read you something in Genesis 11, because here's where the other place in Genesis where we get the same language. This is the Babel story. So this will sound familiar, but just pay attention to one little feature here. Verse 5 says, "And the Lord," it's in all caps, so it's Yahweh, "Lord came down to see the city and the tower which the children of man had built. And the Lord, Yahweh, said, Behold, they're one people, they all have one language. This is only the beginning of what they'll do." In other words, God created humans to have creative power, to do stuff, okay? So he knows what they're about, because he wired them for this. Nothing that they propose to do now, will be impossible for them. "Come, let us go down." Wait a minute. He's already down. He was down in verse 5. Mm. So if the us there refers to the other members of the Trinity, shouldn't they be down too? Because that's where he is. You see, you have a bit of a conundrum there. You have a...
And is it the same Hebrew languaging?
Yes. Okay. Yeah, it is. Mm-hmm. So, God, what's really going on is God is speaking to other members, the heavenly host, angels, if you will. So we need to go down there. We're going to confuse their language. And then what does he do? He allots these territories to them.
So that begs the question, were angels involved in creation?
They weren't, because if you go back to Genesis 1, and here's where a lot of the, if you'll pardon me commenting on New Agers to the expert here.
Yes, please do.
This is where I'll use the word, this is where they're deceptive, okay? Because if you go to Genesis 1:26, God essentially walks into the room and says, "Hey, I have a great idea. Let's make humankind in our image, in our likeness." Mm-hmm. And then when the creation happens, it switches back to singular language. Okay, if you read verse 27, so God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created. It's not plural. It's not they created. In the Hebrew, they're all singular. In fact, every place in the Hebrew Bible where you have any verb of creation with God as the subject, it is always singular. Mm-hmm. There is no ambiguity here.
So he was brainstorming with them.
Scholars would call this the plural of exhortation. Let me translate that for you. Let's say I walk into the room and I say, "Hey, let us go get pizza." Mm-hmm. Okay? And, it seems like a good idea. So we go to the pizza place I choose in my car. I pay. Mm-hmm. I pick the toppings, but you all get to eat. Okay? So I want you along for the ride, so to speak, but I'm the one who's actually doing what needs to be done here. Mm-hmm. That's what you have going on here.
What do you say
to creation?
Okay, what do you say to people who call that the like a covenant, where there was the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit all talking about their plan for creation?
Yeah, I would say you run into problems both in terms of the plurality, both in Genesis 11. And I'd also wonder why God needs to have the conversation with the other members, because they should already know, because they're simultaneously omniscient and eternal. In other words, at what point did they need the information?
Okay, and I'm not asking this to be argumentative. I'm genuinely curious. I'm still learning and growing.
You'll see this kind of discussion, yeah.
Okay, so how does that connect with John 1 prologue of God speaking through Jesus, and even Colossians 1, where Jesus's role in creation?
Well, Jesus is the Son. He is God in flesh. He is the agent of creation. So I don't think that violates the singular creation that you see elsewhere in the Hebrew Bible, even in Proverbs 8, where wisdom is cast as the co-creator. I have on my website, thedivinecounsel.com, if people are interested in the wisdom topic, how this relates to Jesus and how we don't have a gender problem and a multi-creator problem, they can go up and read that. So